Welcome to our week number 8 live stream for my research methods class. I hope everybody is doing well and hanging in there. It's windy today. It feels like fall because of the wind, right? It's hot, which isn't my favorite, but the wind does make it seem like fall is coming. And it's October. Happy October. It's October 4th at this point. And so it's crazy. It's moving along, right? So we are in week number 8. After this week, we will be halfway through our semester, halfway through the class. And we do have an exam this week, so I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I want to give a little bit of feedback about last week and the reminders for this week. Of course, the extra credit question, and then I will see if any of you have any questions for me. So that is our plan for today. Let's go ahead and head over to Canvas together. And if we scroll down again, we are right here in week number 8. But let's go back for just a minute and take a look at last week. And I just want to go over a couple of things really fast from last week, and then we can move on. But I want to go over discussion number 7. Right, so again, we continue to kind of keep adding here. We're looking at a lot of elements right now and some of the core concepts of this class. And I just want to make sure that everyone is feeling clear and good about the discussion responses from last week. Overall, really nicely done. I thought a lot of you did a beautiful job kind of operationalizing coffee intake from a couple of different perspectives. I loved that. I thought this was really well done. Where people struggled a little bit was on the ice cream part of this. So obviously taking the test and writing your results wasn't the challenge, but more talking about the reliability and validity of the test. So in terms of number 2, reliability, this test could have kind of so-so reliability. It's not the worst. And the most relevant would really be like test, retest reliability. So what you could do is have a group of people take the quiz and then maybe take it a couple of months later and compare the results. Are they the same or are they different? You could definitely test the reliability of this, and I think test retest would probably be the most sensical for that. Number 4, everybody just said no, right? And you're right? This isn't the most valid test for sure. And I wanted you to kind of explain that a little bit more. And so for some of you, I think I wanted a little bit more on number 4, but it's definitely not the most valid. Does ice cream flavor really capture the complexity of personality? And probably not, right? So it's not measuring what it's been designed to measure. Right? And they're looking for correlations between things, but do they actually hold up? So what you could consider doing is have a sample of people take the quiz and then choose like a really popular outcome. So let's say you chose coffee ice cream, right? You had a lot of people who got the result of coffee, so you choose coffee ice cream. What are the characteristics of somebody who has coffee ice cream? And they were things like, I wrote them down here, being hardworking, inspiring, and so on. And so then what you would want to do is test those people who scored coffee ice cream on the hardworking, inspiring, and other traits to see if they do actually score highly. And now, if they did, we could call that criterion-related validity, and that would indicate that there is some validity to the test. I have a feeling that it probably wouldn't be a great result. So you were right when you said no, but what I wanted you to do was think about how could you establish that criterion-related validity. And what you could do is measure the characteristics that your results say you should have. And if you measure high on them, then it would hold up. If you don't, then it wouldn't. So most of you did a really good job. I hope you enjoyed taking the ice cream personality quiz or test or whatever on here. But I just wanted to kind of walk through and explain those things just a little bit more before we moved on to week number 8. If you have any questions or thoughts or anything, please feel free to put them into the chat. Otherwise, we move on to week number 8 and chapter number 7. And as always, you should be reading chapter 7 in the textbook. Don't forget to read through my lecture and then watch the lecture video. So with chapter 7 this week, what we're looking at is the idea of sampling. Right, so we're going to look at generalizability. What is a sample versus a population? How do we know when a sample is biased? and what are some different sampling techniques that we could use in terms of looking at things like a representative sample, and how do we consider external validity, and are larger samples better than smaller ones, and so on. Lots of different types of samples that we can use, and that is something that we're looking at quite a bit this week. So make sure you read through all of this, or listen to it if you would prefer. On the Beyond the Book page, I found a little video that I thought was helpful on random sampling. And there's a little bit more here on that, and the non-probability samples and some examples of that as well. And then, of course, on the last page, what you can find are the key terms that you need to know from this chapter for the exam, which is the other big thing that we have this week, and we'll talk about in a minute. So make sure you know all of these terms from chapter 7 related to sampling. Make sure you click on anything, watch the little videos. Don't forget to also watch the lecture video. That's going to be me lecturing with PowerPoint slides to try and help you understand. That should hopefully be helpful for you as well. And then the other big thing that we have this week is, of course, the discussion and then the exam. So let's take a look at the discussion and then the test. And as always, you have my instructions up here and my video, so please take a moment to read those and watch the video. I give lots of little tips and suggestions, so hopefully those are helpful. I'd like you to imagine that you're planning to estimate the price of the average book at our bookstore. The bookstore carries about 13,000 titles, but you plan to sample only 200 books. You will select a sample of 200 books, record the price of each, and then use the average of the 200 books to estimate the average price of those 13,000 titles that are in the bookstore. Assume that the bookstore can give you access to a database listing all 13,000 titles that it carries. Based on this information, I want you to answer the following related to Chapter 7. Number 1, what is the sample in the study, and what is the population of interest in this study? Number 2, how might you collect a simple random sample of books? Number 3, choose one of the following options and discuss how you would collect that type of sample. So you can use any of these: systematic, random sample, cluster sample, multi-stage, or quota sample. And then number 4, discuss one possible way that you could end up with a biased sample when you're conducting the study. Hint, be sure to discuss how that sample might be gathered, the type of bias that's occurring with that sample, and so on. So this is something that you could totally, in theory, do at our bookstore, and you're going to kind of play that out and think about it a little bit in your discussion for this week. Don't forget to reply not only to my questions, but also to a classmate. Really elaborate on these, right? Especially like 2 through 4, right? Make sure you're showing off your knowledge and understanding and comprehension. And I look forward to your methods and reading what you come up with. You also have exam number 2 this week. And a lot of you did really well on exam number 1. And if that's the case, hopefully that holds up for exam number 2. Same style, same format, same kind of rules and expectations. So let's take a look at that. If you click on exam number 2, it will bring up the link where you can go to take the quiz or take the exam. This is due by this Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. It's worth 50 points, 48 questions, and you have an hour to complete it. Now on the last one, people had more than enough time, but just make sure that you pace yourself. Be aware of the timing. If you don't know the answer to something, skip it. You can always come back to it later, and that will save you a little bit of time. But you have an hour to complete it, and you only get one attempt. So really make sure that you're ready and organized and prepared before you begin. Make sure that you have a good, quiet place to take the exam, that you have good internet. The internet is so-so today because of the wind, so just something to keep in mind. You can use your notes, you can use your book, but as I mentioned last time, if you are trying to look up every answer, you are most definitely going to run out of time. So please make sure that you have studied and prepared, that you've reviewed the study guide and you're in good shape before you start. The test will stop once your time expires, so just be really mindful of your timing and set yourself up for success. And if you go back a page here, part of setting yourself up for success is working on that study guide. So if you click on study guide number 2, this is going to tell you everything that you need to know on the exam, right? So it's basically everything since exam number 1. So chapter 3, part 1 and part 2, chapter 5, and then chapter 7 from this week. So 3 chapters, one of them split in half. And if the term is on here, make sure you know it. Make sure you've prepared it, you've studied it, that you understand it. If it's not on here, you don't need to worry about it. This is plenty of information already. So again, if it were me, I mentioned this last time, I would probably type out all of these terms and have them in front of me and organized and ready to go. But hopefully you know kind of what works for you and how to prepare. Just make sure that you do prepare and study like you would for a normal test so that you are set up to be successful. I do have a couple of reminders for you for this week, and then of course I'll give you that extra credit question. Are there any questions at all for me? Anyone have any questions about the exam or anything going on this week or any of that kind of stuff? While I'm waiting, let me put my reminders in the chat. As always, if you could please take a moment to make sure that you are still subscribed. Since we're in week number 8, a lot of people have fallen off. I really appreciate those of you who keep checking and ensuring that, as I've mentioned a few times, it does save me quite a bit of time. And I really do appreciate that effort on your part. So thank you. The other reminder that I have for you, if you are looking ahead, I'll put this here in the chat. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, October 11th at 12:30 p.m. Okay, so our next Twitch live stream will be at that time. I'm putting it here in the chat. So Wednesday at 12:30 like usual. So you can plan on that and join me to get that extra credit question. Again, remember, if you are watching this later, the only way you can answer that question is if you are subscribed. So please, again, if you could check that, that would be fantastic. Thank you. And if not, make sure you put your name in the chat. Perfect. Nice job. So let me give you that Twitch extra credit question, and then I'll see if you have any questions for me. So here, this is kind of the key concept of this week, and hopefully give you just a little bit of a chance to review it. So this is the week number 8 Twitch extra credit question, right? So let me put this here in the chat, and then I'll show you where to answer it. What is random sampling? Define and describe. Okay, so real core concept of this week. What is random sampling? Define and describe. And when you're ready to answer that, you'll go back to Canvas. And since we're in week 8, click on optional Twitch extra credit number 8 right here. Right, and then up at the top, you can click on Start Assignment. And that will bring up this box where you can type your response. Okay, wow, I can't type and talk today. Type your response and hit submit. You get your little confetti burst and flames, very exciting. But don't forget to do this if you're interested. You know, these points do definitely add up, so I'm glad so many of you are taking advantage of it. Thank you for those of you who are joining me live, and thank you as well to those of you watching this later. I appreciate that, and I'm happy to keep doing it as long as it's helpful. Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts, anything? We're at about like 15 minutes or so, but I will hang out for the next little bit. If you do think of anything at all that you want to ask, I'm happy to answer it, whether it's about the exam or anything from this week. Otherwise, I hope you all hang in there, enjoy the windy weather and the heat. I'm tired of the heat. I'm ready for cool weather. But I am excited that it is October, so I'll take that at least. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'm going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself. But I hope you all have a great day, great week, and I will hope to see you all next week for our next Twitch live stream. Thank you. You have a great day as well, both of you. Thank you so much. And I am still here. Like I said, I'll hang out for a little bit if you do have any questions for me. Otherwise, I will hope to see you next week.